Hey guys, welcome back to the next video. In this video, we are going to work with workload management horizontal pod autoscaler or HPA. Sometimes in the due course of the video, I may be saying HPA, not horizontal pod autoscaler, as in like the acronym. I would not be saying it, so don't be confused. It's one and the same. Do remember that whatever we saw on the architecture is what we're gonna do. There are some parameters gonna be updated as part of the coding, which is written as part of the architecture diagram. But that's because of the latest version of the Kubernetes. So that's maybe the reason why the coding, especially in the target average utilization has changed, as well as the API version for HPA has also been changed. I'll show you that. We have not implemented any practical sessions so far, so it's going to be much easier for us to update it. Now, if you're looking for the same thing on the GitHub, so you can go refer the GitHub page workload management within your mastering Docker Kubernetes, and when you come down, you will see HPA or horizontal pod autoscaler topic, in which you have a command-based HPA is what we're gonna see. I'm going to divide this into two different videos for command-based HPA. So we are going to configure a command-based HPA first of all before we do this configuration-based HPA, which we will do later point of time. Now, the reason why we do it as two different videos is because it requires a lot of background setup for your HPA to be running. So I'll discuss further down the line, and it may take a little bit of time for you to set it up. So that's maybe the reason why I'm going for two different videos, because it's going to take some time to do those setup. We are going to use the default image just given as an HPA example, but then you can use or replace this with any image for that matter, because when I want to run a particular query, so this may be actually taking a very less time compared with the one which I want to create myself. So the example is given already by Kubernetes, so we can use that in this situation. And once you understood the example, then I think you can use this with any combination for that matter in terms of working with HPA. All right. So without no further delay, let's just understand how this actually works, or what you need to do in terms of configuring your HPA. Now, let's go ahead and execute the few commands over here. So this is a YAML file we need to create called wm5.yaml. So it's just for your workload management concept, .5.yaml. In this file, we are going to create a very simple deployment with service deployed on it. So as I'm not going to put this horizontal pod YAML file in this file-based structure on this video, but maybe after two videos, we will have that configuration there. But here we are going to do command line HPA configuration. So which means that it's not going to be part of your YAML file. So what is going to be part of your YAML file? Your YAML file will be having deployment, as you can see over here. Sorry about that. I got distracted from a call. So So here is your kind deployment, and the name of the deployment is php-apache. So in this example, you have Apache, which has the PHP code deployed on it. So that's basically what is the content of this particular package. Now, do remember that when you're loading this package for the first time, when you're running this deployment, it may take a bit of extra time because it needs to download this package from your, Kubernetes registry. And pretty much these are all the default parameters in terms of selector and the template, with the name as in the same PHP Apache. And here you need to make sure that you have at least one of this HPA's request limit and request. Now this is what you're going to configure as part of your HPA. Okay, so whatever you're going to like for example, you're configuring memory as your HPA, you need to have that memory parameter over here. If it's CPU, you need to have that CPU over here. Why? Because HPA monitors that parameter which is running on your system. That's called a metric server. So it's not part of our, our existing configuration. So we may have to do that later point of time. I'll tell you what are the errors which you will get if you don't have that. But based on the base of this, right? So what I'm trying to tell you is that whatever HPA you're planning to use, either if you're using memory and CPU, then you should have the resource limit for it so that your HPA can understand what is your limit for each container. And then basically it fine tunes itself to correlate. Because when you're loading HPA, you will be actually loading what it is. Like, for example, in this situation, we are loading as a replica set over here. In this situation, it should be deployment because that's what you're doing over here. So your HPA needs to be loaded with what you're actually doing, actual image where what it is running, because your HPA configuration will not have a specific image for itself because it basically works on an existing configuration. So your existing configuration has some criteria. One of those criteria is that you need to specify HPA, what it is that you're doing. Now, in this case, deployment. And you need to specify the HPA, sorry, with also you need to limit, and also you need to put a request for your for the containers which you're popping up in your deployment. So if you have multiple containers within your deployment, then every container should have this resource limit and request set. If not, your HPA won't work or it will throw some errors or issues. The next part of this configuration of YAML file is that we have one service configured, sorry. So one service configured, and in which you have the PHP Apache is the name of the service. So that's the same thing which you're using over here. And then there is a label here called run PHP Apache. So this is basically the label for running. Now, if you want to understand what this selector or the label run is going to be, label run is going to enable you to create a group. So this way, the deployment here, which uses the service, will be using the run colon label as a label name, where it will be including all those, which is part of that particular group into this deployment. Into this service. So every other deployment which has which wants to included to be, using the service will be actually using this name, which is the run name, which is your PHP-Apache. So I'll tell you about this a little later. When I show you the hands-on, you will understand it much better. Now, you can give this parameter as part of your pod or, any kind of a label configuration wherever you want to unite them into a specific group. So that's the major use of this run. And when I do the hands-on for this, I'll explain you that more, and it will make sense for you why the service is having this label run then. All right, so let's go ahead and save and quit this file. And then let's do a kube control apply -f file name. I can see that the two services created over here. One is the deployment service, and the other one is the service itself, which is named as PHP Apache for both these specifications over here. Sorry about that. Over here, you have the deployment, 1 out of 1 ready. As you know that our deployment is so simple that we are creating only one replica. And that one replica, you don't have to really specify because that's the default number of replica you will get, in a deployment when you have not specified any of it or any kind of a parameter without any parameter. So here, there is also a pod created, which is 1 out of 1, and it is currently in running state. And then here you have the service created, PHP Apache. And here you have the cluster IP address, the port number, and the selector here, which is run PHP. Same over here as well. Now, the next thing we are going to do now that you have created the deployment. So for this session, right, so you need to have an understanding of service. So if you not have an understanding of service, you have to go back and get the understanding of service, because I won't be explaining you all those in detail because that has already been done. Okay. So the next thing is that we have to create, or we have to run the HPA manually. So for that, a very simple command I have here, which I'm going to type. It's a coup control, auto scale, deployment. So you need to specify what you're going to auto scale. If it's going to be a replica set, a pod, whatever it is, you need to specify it over here, saying that what component you're going to auto deploy. Auto scale. And then give the name of the deployment, which is your PHP Apache. Okay. And then here you have a couple of parameters, which is very much mandatory to give. CPU percentage. CPU percent is 50. That's what we discussed. Let me just verify it. When the target utilization for memory is 80% and the CPU is 50%, right? The same thing. Hyphen minimum equal to 1. Hyphen max equal to 10. Now, if you're not looking for CPU, you can change from CPU to memory, okay? So this is a command line method of doing it. On the next video, you'll see the YAML file. But next video will be much faster because we will be resolving all the dependencies on this video. And it's very important that you go through this video to have a complete understanding on this concept of HPA. Now that we have defined these options, let's understand what these options are. So coup control, auto scale, deployment, name of the deployment. And then CPU percentage, you're saying that I want my CPU percentage to be 50%. As in, like, I want that to be monitored for 50%. If it breaches, I want a new pod to be created. Like, how many, you say that if it breaches 50%, 50% of the CPU utilization, you need to create another pod. Until and unless it stop breaching, you have to keep on creating number of pods from minimum 1, which is 1 should be always there, to maximum number of 10 pods. So that's what you're defining. So this is very important for you. Before you go ahead and execute this command, please do understand this is the requirement setting in this what we are doing right now. So hit enter, and you can see that that particular horizontal pod autoscaler is coming in. Now, if you see this command, right, I've included certain items over here. Deployment pods, HPA, which is your horizontal pod autoscaler, and service SVC. Okay, so these items are what is currently being watched. You can also use another command over here. For example, you can use this watch command. This is also very useful. But the only problem here is that you can see that I'm watching currently HPA, PHP, Apache. The problem with this watch command is that you cannot add additional stuff. For example, I want to watch HPA as well as SVC. I just can only do with one parameter, single resource at a time. So that's why I'm going for this command. So if you're thinking that I didn't teach you about this, it's because it has a drawback. That's why I didn't teach you. So this works really amazing because I use this all the time on production environment, and it basically works miracle. Now let's understand about your HPA over here. So this is your HPA, and you have your PHP Apache. That's the name of the, the name of what you are monitoring, and as well as the name of the HPA is also the same, because you have not specified the name as a specific parameter over here. And it just took what you're monitoring as the name itself. And what you're monitoring, or the reference here, is your deployment / PHP Apache. And then in what is target is basically, it is asking you like what you are actually monitoring, what's the current percentage of utilization, and what is the targeted percentage of utilization which you're looking for. Okay, so there's unknown over here. I'll talk about it in a moment. Minimum number of pods you should always maintain as part of this HPA is 1, and a maximum number of pod which needs to be maintained or auto scaled up to is about 10. And what is the current replication size is only 1, and it's been 2 minutes and 10 seconds since we have created this, and there is no labels at this moment. We are not given any labels at this moment. All right, so now let's understand the elephant in the room, which is your target. Now, target should supposed to say about the existing target. So for that, we normally use something called a metric server. Okay, a metric server is the one which actually understands about the resources which is currently utilized by each of this process, and then meters those amount of percentage of utilization and reports it back. So that's kind of a service is currently missing. Okay, so I have given you a command on your GitHub on enabling this using the your Kubernetes GitHub page URL. So all you have to do is hit the apply button. So kube control apply -f and you give the URL over here, which is basically goes to your GitHub Kubernetes and then metric server. So you can see that I spoke about this, and then the latest version you're downloading as part of the components.yaml file. Hit enter. This should create your service accounts, your roles, your bindings, your services for your metric server, your deployment for your metric server, and the API registry. Okay, so these are some of the items which gets created autonomously within this component YAML file. All these are part of it, so it's gonna get loaded. Now you may not see all those things because a service is created, a deployment is created, but you don't see any of it over here, right? Now, why is this? Because these are system objects. So it is all created with the system object stuff. So you may not see it because what it is currently monitored is the default on the name of the namespace called default. But these are system namespaces. So you will not be able to see unless and until you type individual command for it. So you can do kubectl describe, and then you can type deployment / what is the name of the deployment? You can just take it from here itself. Deployment, and then deployments.app / metric server, and then you need to give this option -n kube -system. So then you will be able to. If you don't give this -n kube system, you can see that it says not found. So obviously it means that it is looking for in the default namespace, but you won't be finding it. So when you give this option -n, which is namespace, and then you say the kube system, then it shows you the output of it. Now you can see that here it is configured with the metric server deployment, and here it is using a single replica. And then here you can see that it is using some of the default stuff in terms of storage and blah blah blah. And you can see that it's a deployment controller over here, and you can see that the replica set name. Okay, and the name of the replica set. So here you can also give instead of this option, you can give get nodes, but with this option with kube system. Okay, I'm sorry, not get nodes, get pods. So when you do this get pods option with kube system, you can see that metric server is currently services installed over here. It's a pod created, and you can see that it is not running. So it says running, but then 0 out of 1 is running, which means that it's not running. So let's just examine this using kube control logs, the name of this log. Name of the pod, and then use -n kube -system, or else you won't be able to see it. Now you can see that it comes up with pretty much an exception over here saying that your IP SAN does not contain the proper information, and your SSL certificate has an issue over here. You can see that failed to verify valid 501. So as this, we don't want to have this, or as it is an internal service, we don't want to enable HTTPS all the time. So we can disable HTTPS. So for that, you just need to uninstall it first, uninstall whatever you did just now by going back to the previous command where you said apply, right? Just go and remove that. And say instead of apply, just remove delete. And this was gonna remove all the roles, service accounts, and service and deployments. So all those is gone now. Okay. You don't see that metric servers anymore. So what do you do right now instead of the applying it directly, wget the file. So this will download this components.yaml file. So what we're going to do is like download the file, edit the components.yaml file. And you can see that pretty much your file has all the information which is required, like service account, cluster roles, role bindings. Likewise, if you just keep coming down, you will see deployment eventually. So you can see the deployment over here. So within this, you have some parameters over here. So in your container specifications for your metric server container specification, you have the arguments over here. So just want to tell you the line number. So around 140, line number 140, that's easy to remember. Above that line, you have to make an entry over here. And then just do hyphen and then hyphen and just say kubelet hyphen insecure hyphen TLS. So I think I got the spelling wrong. Let me just copy paste it because I'm really good with spellings. Yeah. So insecure kubelet insecure TLS. So this means that it's going to go with the insecure method without having TLS enabled. So save and quit this file and then kubectl apply -f file name. Now this is going to create us the service. Now you cannot look at this. It won't be visible to our naked eye. So now the service is running. So we just want to see if it's getting started or not. Seems like still having some issue. Let's just check the logs here once again. See if that, okay. I guess it is starting up. So let's just give it like a minute or so. You might see that unknown has changed to 0%. So there you go. So which means that it must be started. So if you see that, yeah, you can see that 1 out of 1. So now you can see the targeted percentage appearing. What is the current utilization as well as the what is the utilization which is kept as a threshold. So both these items you can see over here. So now this is what this is doing is that it is telling you that the current system or this particular pod is 0% CPU utilization, and this is like what you have set as a target is 50%. Now on the next video as a part 2 of this one, we will work with increasing the load on this particular pod, and we want to see what exactly happens when you do so. And when you do increase this, we want to see like how it actually scales up. And then when we cancel the load, how it will be scaling down. So both these scenarios we will see or test on the next video. Thank you again for your patience. I'll see you on the next video.